All right, all right. Well, awesome. Thanks everyone who has already joined in. I appreciate you guys being here. Yes, you can go to the next slide, Ben. All right, so I've already said this slide before in a couple other presentations, but if this is your first Cloud Study Jam or first event with the Developer Student Clubs, you might not even know what a DSC is. Well, a Developer Student Clubs, it's part of the Google Developers Initiative to help people learn about Google Cloud and other Google technologies. The whole reason it started was to help students get practical knowledge when it comes to being a developer. And in order to help students get that knowledge, they support our clubs by giving us access to quick labs and different Google resources that are usually paid things to use. So like I said before, the mission of Developer Student Clubs is to help bridge the gap between theory and practice. And what does that mean? In our classes, we learn about theory. We learn about how coding languages work. We learn about, the theory of computer science, but we don't really get a lot into how do we apply those concepts in real-world situations and solving real-world problems. So this entire initiative started because they realized, students were going through 4 years of a degree, trying to get into the workforce, and they didn't really possess those skills that employers were looking for in order to, really apply that knowledge that they need. And they don't possess those skill sets in order to solve real-world problems practically. So today's schedule will run a little bit behind because of issues, but that's okay. Not a big deal. So I already did a little bit of a recap of what DSC is. Next up, we have our speaker, Jesus Diaz. Following that, we're going to go into a little bit of an overview if you're doing the security identity fundamentals or GCP Essentials. Depending on that, we're going to go over both of them and what you'll be learning and working on throughout the different labs within the quests. Then you're going to get access. You're going to go ahead and start working on them. You're going to have an opportunity to get help, ask questions. And then following that, we'll just have a general Q&A about the club, about quests, about Google developers, or really anything like that. And then we'll go ahead and end out the event. So without further ado, I want to introduce Jesus Diaz. He's the founder of Cloud 39 and the organizer for GDG Cloud Miami. He's going to spend the next few minutes talking really about the business side of Google Cloud and also kind of the role that GDGs play in the community and kind of how they relate to developer student clubs.
Yep. Thank you, Alex. Thank you to the Developer Student Club for the invitation, and yeah, super excited to be here. I'm glad everyone is taking a portion of their Saturday for for learning more about cloud security, Google Cloud, and stuff like this. So I wanted to talk about two things. One, it's as Alex mentioned, Cloud 39, and how there's another side of Google Cloud, which is more on the vendor business side. How do you work with Google when you're a company and you want to build your expertise and your practice around that technology? But I also want to mention Google development groups, and particularly the one that I organize, which is GDG Cloud Miami. So maybe we better start with that because it's kind of like a nice segue from what Alex said on the student clubs. The GDG Cloud Miami, and Alex, I'm sure you remember, and we can post the link to the meetup page. It's basically for not just for students, but for anyone that is interested in the Google technologies around the world. There's what it's called Google development groups. So these are clubs that are partially organized. Okay, let me say back. They are 100% community driven, but they get support from Google. So basically, Google helps organizing, helps advertising these groups, these clubs. They also get support in terms of speakers and some swag here and there and some funding, but they are 100% driven by the community. So here in Florida, we have a number. We have GDG Treasure Coast. We have GDG Tampa. And then we have GDG Orlando, which is one of the biggest. And here in Miami, we have kind of like in South Florida, we have two. We have GDG Miami, and then we have also GDG Cloud Miami. The GDG Miami, they are more into Fort Lauderdale area. GDG Cloud Miami, we're here in Miami. Within the whole GDG clubs, there's a subset that are GDG Clouds groups, and the goal of those groups is focus more into Google Cloud as opposed to all of the Google technology. So as you will know, Google has a lot of technology around. You have all of the web, all of the web frameworks like Angular. You have all of the devices on Google Actions. You have Android for mobile development. So there's a large amount of technologies started, founded, and open source by Google. Well, what the GDG Cloud do is we focus more on the technologies that are related with Google Cloud. So think of the conversation that you're going to have today and the study jam that you're going to have today about cloud security, but also things on all of the technologies around data architecture, cloud compute, Kubernetes, things like that. BigQuery. So there's tens and tens of services and technologies that are specific for the Google Cloud. And that's kind of like what we focus more, that's kind of like our biggest focus, just to discuss those technologies. So, and by the way, I want to make this kind of like open to discussion. So if anyone has a question, feel free to send it to the chat message, or just like, ask the question, and let's make it interactive, okay? So that's on the Google development group side. Again, we've been around for, I want to say, 2 years. We've organized, I want to say 3 DevFests and 2 Google Next Extended events, which are kind of like a bigger events. But we try to meet every other month or every month. We did an event with the University of Miami about in January around Dialogflow. We organize regularly. We have more than, I want to say, 600 members at this point. So we keep engaged as a community via online, and now with this pandemic, we move more into virtual, just as you guys have done it. But kind of like we keep a healthy community around, and we welcome the Google student groups as well to become part of GDG Cloud Miami and kind of like share their experiences and learn. Ultimately, it's all about learning about these technologies. Okay. So on the commercial side, as Alex mentioned, I'm also the founder of Cloud39. Cloud39 was founded about 3 years ago, and the vision of the company was focus exclusively in Google Cloud and provide technology and consulting services for mid-size and enterprise companies. So what we do is we built a lot of expertise around Google Cloud within our team. And I don't know if you're familiar with the certifications that are available for Google Cloud, but we have a number of cloud architects, certified Google Cloud architects, certified Google Cloud data engineers, certified Google Cloud data cloud associates. And then we build consulting services around that expertise to help our customers start or accelerate their journey into Google Cloud. That's kind of like our vision. And that journey could mean that they are moving their on-prem or third-party cloud infrastructure into Google Cloud. Think virtual machine, things storage. They might be moving a lot of these things to Google Cloud. We can help them assess the migration, plan the migration, and execute that migration. but it could also mean that they are moving their data and their analytics workloads to Google Cloud. And then we can also help them identify the key products that they need to use, the key steps that they need to use, and we also provide the professional services to help on that migration. So it's kind of like a multi-level service in which, you know, consulting services on how better use Google Cloud, how better leverage not just the technical resources for Google Cloud, but also the commercial and business resources with Google Cloud. And then on the professional services technical side, we have the manpower to actually execute on that vision. I want to add that Google Cloud is not just technical resources. Google Cloud has a number of programs that a lot of companies don't really know how to take advantage of. Just to give you an example, they have a lot of credits and benefits for startups. They can give you up to $50,000 in credits if you're a qualifying startup for you to run your solution or your application in Google Cloud. They also have programs for nonprofit organizations and for educations. So helping identify what programs are relevant for our customers and how they can better take advantage of those programs is part of our mission as a consulting company. So feel free to look us up. Again, Alex, please socialize kind of like our website and our information. If you go into the Google Cloud Partner Portal and you you search Cloud39, we are the top partner in Florida. So that's kind of like a nice result of all of the effort that we're putting actually on Google Cloud. So for Florida, we are number one partners, and we keep working on growing our presence within Google Cloud, and B, increasing our expertise and achieving more accolades and certifications with Google Cloud. So as a company, you can always get certified. And right now we have, I want to say, 6-7 different expertises within Google Cloud. We have expertise in BI analytics, in application modernization, in the retail industry, because we do a lot of retail as well, so on and so forth. So again, happy to talk more about the company. We also, before this whole thing unraveled, we were putting together an internship program for the summer that I think it might be of interest or for some of you if you want to get more into Google Cloud. So probably, Alex, that's something that make sure anyone that it's looking for an internship, summer internship, get in contact with me. Okay. So Alex, that's all I have. I'm gonna open for Q&A. If there's anyone that has a question, or either within your panelists or from the general attendees, I'm all ears.
If anyone has any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask him.
No questions. I either did a very good job or a very poor job.
I got a question, Jesus, while we're waiting for some people to ask a question. So at Cloud39, does, you said that you guys try to cover like the different, topics like within GCP. Do you guys have like specialists for each like certain like region of Google Cloud, or do you just have like people who are just like kind of good at everything? Is it like you guys kind of specialize person by person? Like how does that work?
Well, yeah, I mean it's really hard to be just good across the board. So normally what we Google Cloud acknowledged that, and their certification program is a reflection of this specialization. So within the Google Cloud program, you have, for example, cloud architects and cloud engineers certifications. And then you have data engineer certifications. You have security certifications. So each of those certifications include a slew of products within Google Cloud. So within the company, I try to cross-pollinate as much as possible within the team, but definitely there are people that are more focused on the cloud architecture infrastructure, and there are people that are more specialized on the data engineering, kind of like think big data, analytics, machine learning, things like that. And then the other team, the first team that I mentioned, is more, infrastructure, networking, virtual machines, application modernization. That would be kind of like a third topic if you want. But yeah, definitely, it's very, very hard to be good across the board. Definitely, I have a number of people, including myself, that we are certified as cloud architects and data engineers. I think that gives you a very good vision across the board for how everything works and how kind of like you can talk to the other teams. But it requires a lot of time and dedication and a lot of hands-on experience. So.
Okay, yeah, that definitely answers the question. I'm thinking of some other questions to ask, but I want to give some other people the opportunity to ask any questions if you like.
We have a question from Rose. How did you get certified?
Okay, so the best way to get certified is, so of course you have to prepare, and there's a lot of online material to prepare. I would definitely suggest taking the courses in Coursera. So Coursera have classes, but then they have specializations, and then Google have made great efforts, great partnership with Coursera, and there's a lot of material within Coursera to actually prepare for the exam. So there's like an exam guide and kind of like a certification guide, and that includes preparing and taking a lot of these courses in Coursera or any other platform. I think there's a big one as well, Pluralsight, that I think the courses are in both platforms. Then once you get, once you feel comfortable, then you take an exam. So the exam is a proctor exam. It's a 2-hour exam, 100 questions, and it costs $200. If you pass, then you're certified, and that certification is good for 2 years. If anyone is looking at getting certified, and doesn't have a lot of hands-on experience with Google Cloud or cloud technologies in general, I would definitely suggest the Cloud Associate certification. That's kind of like an intro level certification, and it gives you like a very nice exposure to a lot of the services and cloud philosophy concepts. It's cheaper. I think it costs like $100, and it's definitely a very nice stepping stone if you're looking to get certified as cloud architect and data engineer. So take first the Cloud Associate certification, and then go for the other ones. And Alex, I have a very nice presentation on path to certification. Maybe when you have your next cloud study jam, I can just jump in and I can spend a little bit more time just going through the certifications.
I think that's a great idea.
And to add on to what you said, as for the rest of the month, students can get 1 month free of both Coursera and Pluralsight. So that's a great way to start. There'll be a link at the end of the presentation. And then also as students, you get 50% discount on all the Google certifications. Or I think, I'm not sure about that, but we'll get that information will also be at the end of the presentation. And then another question from Rose, how has the certification helped you in your career?
Well, it's a great credential when you're introducing a company. Like, for me as a as a founder, I'm very focused on working with the clients, assessing their needs, and kind of like working out on a plan. So it's a great it's a great accolade to show. If you are more on the job market and seeking for for a position, it definitely helps because it's it's a certified authority that is giving you it's not an authority that's giving you a kind of like a certification to your work. So moreover, if you're coming out of college and you don't have a lot of hands-on experience or background or previous job experience, I think it will be great just to show that you went through some of these classes and know what you're doing. And by the way, Google Cloud is not the only cloud that provides certification. AWS has a certification and training program as well. I'm pretty sure Azure has it. So if you're, this is a multi-cloud world. I'll try to learn Google Cloud, but also look at other clouds. I think it's gonna make you more marketable on the when you're looking for jobs.
Okay, guys, we got a couple more minutes. If there's any last questions that you're dying to ask, go ahead, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But I want to spend a couple more minutes just in case there's more questions.
Yep, and Alex, to that point, I'll drop after we're done. But you have all my contact information. Feel free to post it on the team, and any other questions that pop up during the event, feel free to reach out.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think we're good.
I think that's good. I'm just gonna ask one more question. You mentioned earlier about internship opportunities. Is that you said that is still happening for summer?
Well, that's a plan. So we don't know what's going to happen. The nice thing of being a services and consulting company for cloud technologies is that we were able to move from being in the office to being 100% remote, seamlessly. So right now the whole team is remote. I don't see why not. Interns can be the same. I mean, it requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of hard work and commitment on everyone's side. But we're always looking for good people. People that are interested, that they want to invest in learning and growing. So we haven't, to be honest with you, we haven't put a lot of thought on kind of like a more formal internship program. But yeah, definitely. We're thinking of just like moving ahead with that sometimes in the summer break.
Awesome, perfect. Well, if you come up with any information on that, then I'd be happy to share that with the club, because I know there's definitely going to be some people who are going to be interested in that.
Absolutely, I will do.
All right, awesome.
Okay, thank you guys. Enjoy the study jam, and let's keep in touch.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, Jesus.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. Let me see. There you go. Webcam back on in a second. Okay. So the next after here, Ben and James are going to go ahead and go over some of the different topics you're going to be working with, whether you go the GCP Essentials route or the security and identity fundamentals. So without further ado, James and Ben, go ahead and take it away.
All right, so for anyone new, our first study jam was GCP Essentials, and kind of just an introduction to the Google Cloud Platform. So because some of you have not or were not there for that, I'm going to go over that. The Google Cloud Platform is basically a whole bunch of services that Google has made available. It runs on Google's infrastructures, and the GCP Essentials Quest gives you a basic introduction to some of the main services. So the main services, Google Compute Engine. So you can spin up virtual machines. You can choose predefined types, or you can choose custom amounts of virtual CPUs and memory, or you can even add external hard drives, persistent disks, and GPUs if you need. And you can interact with the Google Cloud Platform either through the Google Cloud Platform console or the command line or using REST APIs. So Cloud Shell is going to be your friend because it gives you all of the command line tools pre-installed and pre-configured. You're already logged in and you have access to do everything you need to do for GCP. Kubernetes engines is a way to containerize applications. So if you have an application that can be containerized into parts, you can set those up so that it will it'll run multiple versions of that to handle scaling automatically if you need, and to help have multiple versions of your code running. So this is on Google's infrastructure. And you'll also work with load balancing, so you can have multiple compute instances, App Engine instances, behind a single IP address, and clients access through that IP address, and it will get distributed based on the demand on each instance. All right, James?
Yep, so with security and identity fundamentals, security is built into every aspect on the Google Cloud Platform. Tools built in to help ensure data safety and integrity across projects and ensure that administrators can control who has access to what. GCP's Identity and Access Management Service is the go-to service for managing user permissions, virtual machine permissions, group permissions, or service account permissions. You'll learn how to utilize virtual private clouds and virtual private networks to protect services and control access to services.
All right, so identity and access management is a way of identifying who can do what on which resources. The who can be a person, group, or application, and the what refers to the privileges or actions that the who can do. The resource refers to any GCP service and represents where the who has access to do the what. An example of this is the compute viewer rule. This provides read-only access to get and list compute engine resources, but does not grant the user the ability to control or read the data stored on them. Cloud IAM is composed of different objects which are represented on the Cloud IAM resource hierarchy.
So the Google Cloud, So the Google Cloud Platform organizes resources hierarchically. The organization node is the root node in the hierarchy. Folders are children of organizations. Projects are the children, and the individual resources are the children of the projects. Each resource has one parent, exactly one parent. Policies can be set at all of these levels. A policy contains a set of roles and role members. Resources inherit policies from their parents. A policy set at a child level cannot restrict access granted at a parent level. For example, if a compute editor permission is granted at the folder level, a compute viewer permission granted at the project level will not prevent the user from editing compute instances. Levels. So there's different levels. The organization resource represents the company. Cloud IAM roles and permissions granted at this level are inherited by the resources under the organization. This level has the organization admin role, which allows a user to define IAM policies, structure the resource hierarchy, and assign necessary roles to other users. Oops. 1 second. A folder resource can represent a department team, or legal entity, and has one or more projects underneath it. IAM roles granted at the folder level are inherited by all resources under the folder. Folders can use the group, projects, and isolate boundaries. Each folder can contain additional folders in it to represent products or applications. Different users can be granted full control of GCP resources under different folders. And projects represent a trust boundary within the company. Services within a project have a default level of trust. All resources can only fall under a GCP project.
Right, so organizations and folders are technically not required. So if you go ahead onto the GCP console now, and as you'll do in your quick labs, the projects that you're going to be working on are not part of any folder or organization, but all the resources that are on GCP have to be under a project. So you can't have a compute engine instance on a folder or organization. It's going to be under a project. And just so everyone knows, you guys can, I think, unmute yourselves and ask questions if you have any, or you can go into the chat and ask, Discord, the chat, or the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and answer there. So continuing, the GCP resource hierarchy will always match that of the IAM resource hierarchy. So if you change one hierarchy, it also changes the other. If you move a project into a different organization, the project will now update from the project's cloud IAM policies will now update from the new organization's policies. And because child policies can't restrict access granted at the parent level, you should always follow the principle of least privilege. This applies to identities, rules, and resources. You always want to select the smallest scope that's necessary for the task in order to reduce your exposure to risk. Resource manager rules can assign permissions to all the resources under the object. For example, both organizations and folders have the admin resource rule. Organization admins have full control over all resources, and folder admins have full control over folders. Organization viewers can view all resources, and folder viewers can view folders and resources under a project. A folder creator rule lets a user browse the folder hierarchy and create additional folders, and the project creator rule lets users create new projects. A project deleter rule will allow the user to delete the projects.
So IAM primitive roles are the original roles that were available in the GCP console, but they are broad. If you apply a primitive role to a GCP project, they affect all the resources in that project. They offer fixed coarse-grained levels of access.
The primitive roles in the Google Cloud Platform are the owner, editor, and viewer roles. The owner role has full administrator access, including the ability to add and remove members and to delete projects. The editor role has modify and delete access, which allows a developer to deploy applications and to modify or configure its resources. The viewer role has read-only access to resources. So these roles inherit from each other. So the owner role includes the permissions for the editor role, and the editor role includes the permissions of the viewer role. Then there's also the billing administrator role, which is separate from the other three, and it allows users to manage billing and to add or remove administrators, but it does not grant them the right to change the resources in a project or to view them. A project can have multiple owners, editors, viewers, and billing administrators.
GCP services offer their own set of predefined roles, and they define whose roles can be applied. IAM predefined roles apply to a particular GCP service in a project. This provides users with granular access to GCP resources and prevents unwanted access to other resources. These roles are collections of permissions because in order to do any meaningful operations, you usually need more than one permission.
For example, in this diagram, a group of users is granted the instance admin role on project A. This provides the users of that group with the necessary permissions to administer compute engine instances, such as to list instances, get details about an instance, start, stop, and delete instances, and more. Combining multiple permissions into a role makes them easier to manage. Some other examples of compute engine IAM predefined roles include the compute admin role, which grants users full control of all compute engine resources, the network admin role, which lets users create, modify, and delete networking resources and provides read-only access to firewall rules and SSL certificates, and the storage admin role, which allows users to create, modify, and delete disks, images, and snapshots. Permissions can be broken down to parts. For example, the compute.instances.delete permission represents the service, the resource, and the verb. This permission is used to delete compute engine instances.
If the predefined roles don't align to your needs, you can create custom roles that have specific set of permissions. For example, you can create an instance operator role, which only grants users the ability to list instances, get details about instances, and start and stop instances, which is shown in the diagram above.
So in the Google Cloud Platform, there are 5 types of members. So Google accounts, such as an @Gmail account, or if you have other domains. Service account, Google Groups, Google Cloud Identity accounts, and G Suite domains. So a service account is one of those 5 types, and it's a special type of account that instead of belonging to an individual user, it belongs to an application or service. This allows you to have server-to-server interactions without the need to provide user credentials. You can configure instances or applications to use service accounts and then assign the IAM permissions necessary to those service accounts. Programs running within the compute engine environment can automatically acquire the access tokens that they were set up with using credentials.
Service accounts are identified by an email address. There are 3 different types of service accounts: user-created, which are custom, built-in, and Google APIs service accounts. By default, all projects come with a compute engine service account, which is assigned by default to all compute engine instances. Additionally, all projects come with a Google API Platform Service account to run internal Google processes on your behalf, identifiable by the second email address on the slide. It is automatically granted the editor role on your project as well. You can also start an instance with a custom service account, which provides more flexibility than the default compute engine account, but requires more management. So
the default compute engine service account, as mentioned before, it's automatically created per project, and it comes with an auto-generated name and email address, and its email address follows the pattern of the first email address. So the project number, which is not the same as the project name, -compute@developer.gserviceaccounts.com. By default, it is enabled on all compute engine instances, but instead you can choose to use a different one to assign permissions separately. So rather than using passwords, service accounts authenticate with the Google Cloud Platform using keys. GCP managed keys cannot be downloaded and are automatically rotated for you. They are used by GCP services such as App Engine and Compute Engine, and the keys will be rotated by Google at least every 2 weeks. On the other hand, user-managed keys can be downloaded, but they are created, managed, and rotated by you. So when you create a new key, you download the private key, and it's not retained by Google, so you have to keep track of it. And you're also responsible for ensuring that the key stays secure, because the private key is supposed to be private. And you're also responsible for other management operations, such as key rotation.
So virtual private clouds, or VPCs, are a way to isolate resources. A network can span multiple GCP regions and can contain one or more subnetworks which span a single GCP region and has a defined IP range. Depending on the zone they are in, resources will fall under a subnet. Within a network, individual resources, even those in different subnets, can communicate between each other using internal IP addresses. If you remove an external IP address from an instance, a resource is only accessible through its internal IP address, restricting its access to other resources within that network. This is a way to isolate your resources, which ensure that only resources within the same network can access each other. In order to communicate between networks, instances must use external IP addresses. In the diagram, instance A and B are in the same VPC network, so they can communicate using external IP addresses. Instances C and D are in different VPC networks, so they must communicate with each other using the instance's external IP address.
So as James just mentioned, resources located in different virtual private cloud networks cannot normally communicate via internal IP addresses. However, VPC peering solves this problem by peering the two networks together, which allows workloads in different VPC networks to communicate each other within the private internal IP namespace. As with internal IP addresses, traffic between the two peered networks stays within Google's network and does not travel through the public internet. This also means that the latency between requests would be the same as if they were in the same network. So using VPC peering instead of external IP addresses or virtual private networks has a number of advantages. One being that communicating through public IP addresses results in a higher network latency than the private networking, because private networking stays within Google's network. Resource and network managers do not need to expose their public IP addresses to the internet, which prevents all the associated risks with having an IP address public. Communicating using internal IP addresses will always reduce the associated costs, because Google Cloud charges a higher rate per gigabyte of network egress over the external network compared to the internal network. Using peering allows you to use the internal IP addresses, which results in that lower cost per gigabyte. VPC peering works between networks of different projects, but you have to set up the VPC peering configuration on both sides the same way, and then the VPC peering will become active. In order for it to work for you to use internal IP addresses properly, the IP address blocks cannot overlap, otherwise you might have instances that have the same IP address. So in the diagram here, VPC peering was set up between networks A and B of projects A and B. Now the compute engine instances in network B can communicate with the compute engine instances in network A using an internal IP address and vice versa. However, in order for that to work properly, the peer must be configured on both ends. So there are two peers from network A to B and from network B to A. And once they're both set up, then you have an active VPC peering.
Like Ben kind of already described, if you get the subscription, which you guys already should have gotten, you get 30 days unlimited access to Quick Labs. So that means you can complete the GCP Essentials, the security and identity fundamentals, but not only those two, you pretty much have unlimited access to any of the other quests within Quick Labs. A couple different things. You can get the cloud engineering and data engineering with Google Cloud through Coursera. If you don't know what Coursera is, it's pretty much a platform where you can learn a little bit more in depth about these different topics that Quick Labs goes over. Quick Labs does a really great job at introducing us to these different platforms through hands-on labs, but not necessarily how to get certified in those. You'll even see as you're going through the GCP quest, because I was kind of looking through it a little bit just to get refreshed on the content. It even suggests if you want to get certified to go over to Coursera. So Google is giving you guys access to both of those courses. And if you complete the learning paths, you can get a certificate through Coursera, which is pretty cool, which kind of goes along the same lines as what Jesus was talking about earlier and the importance of getting certified on these platforms. Also, Google is giving you guys access to Pluralsight. So if you don't know what Pluralsight is, I hadn't heard of it personally before they offered it, but I checked it out. It's pretty cool. It's like Coursera in the same sense that it's for learning different platforms, but it's not really just geared towards Google Cloud. There's a couple different topics, and I'm going to actually bring it up because they break it into a couple different main things. Hang on. They split all of their different paths and courses into a couple different dependencies, which is software development, IT ops, data professional, information and cybersecurity. So those four, and then when you go under their different subjects, like I just said, they have more specific courses. So, for example, you go under software development, there's Python, JavaScript, Java, C#, web dev, mobile development, and then even other things like Angular. You know, it seems like there's a lot of value in here. So if you've always wanted to jump into some of these topics, you can go ahead and get access to that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what I said. You're going to get 60 days if you complete the security and identity fundamentals, access to Coursera, as well as Pluralsight. But if you want to get certified, I would probably start with the Coursera.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can, if you want to branch out and maybe do some other software dev that's not specific to Google Cloud, Pluralsight is pretty cool as well. And to get access to that, all you got to do is go to the short link that I put in that slide, which is bit.ly/learningcloud.
Capital L and C.
Yep, and then that'll take you to the page that Google has all of those resources available.
I think Google is still working on this, but all students will be able to get to sign up on this platform. It might even be ready. I'll send out the link if it is. And you get $50 worth of credits on the Google Cloud platform for your own account to do whatever you want. The credits last for a year. They expire in a year. And at the end of the year, you get to renew it again to get another $50 in credits. You'll also get $200 worth of credits on Quick Labs free to use if you, for some reason, don't have a subscription, but you'll have the credits if you want to. And you also get access to a number of Coursera courses for free, and then you'll also be eligible to receive 50% off on G Suite certifications and possibly 50% off on Google Cloud certifications for the associate certification.
Like I said before, our cutoff is midnight for prize eligibility. You get 1 credit per lab completed, maximum of 7, depending on, well, not depending on anything. If you complete one or both of the quests, GCP Essentials or Security and Identity Fundamentals, you are going to have 30 days access as part of the monthly subscription, but if you complete the Security and Identity Fundamentals quest, you get an additional 30 days. You have access to those 3 things I mentioned, more Quick Labs access, Pluralsight, and Coursera. If you want to go down / explore the certification path, if anything that Jesus said interests you. So definitely take advantage of that. Just keep going. Just because we're about to wrap it up doesn't mean you need to stop. So you have basically the rest of the evening to complete as much as you can. Please complete that survey. Like as Ben said, it helps us out, and well, it'll give you the chance to win some pretty cool prizes. And if you need any help, hit us up in Discord. And if for some reason you're not in the Discord, you can fill out that contact form, or you can just go to our website, which is just dscfau.com. And that has the links for a lot of things. I just want to make one more announcement. We're trying to make sure we have an accurate list of members of our club. So if you have not already, it would be extremely helpful if you could go to Al Central and join our club. Ben has made a convenient button for you. So if you go to our website, dscfau.com, and click the Al Central button, then it'll automatically take you to Al Central, and you can basically join our club officially on the Al Central website. That way we have a list to show of all the members that are in our club, and that helps us because in the years to come, as we continue as a club, we have basically a large list of members that we can show student government and COSO that we deserve funding as a club to continue what we're doing. With the last thing I'm going to say is within the next couple of weeks, we're going to finalize a summer schedule and fall schedule at the very least for more events, because with everything going on with the pandemic, definitely kind of killed some of our momentum that we had going on, and the events kind of were a little bit last minute, and that's definitely partly my fault. So I'm going to get with my officer team and then generate a schedule that's a little bit more far out so you guys can plan. And then we want to also kind of survey you guys on what the quests that you guys want to do, and then we can get that schedule ready. So I think that's pretty much it. Go ahead and do that form. That way we can get everything out to you, and keep going and have fun. If you need any help, you know where to find us. All right, awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for attending. I hope you at least have learned a little bit so far. If this is your first event, I hope this was a great first event and that you'll consider joining developer student clubs. So go ahead and keep it up, keep the momentum going, and if you need any help, don't be afraid to ask. But for now, have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to talk to you and see you guys soon.